Crossings at the southern border are dramatically down, partially because of moves President Biden made at the end of his term, but now down even more because of Donald Trump, who has made strides to militarize the border. The New York Times reports, in addition to the nearly 9,000 active duty combat troops already patrolling, DHS is requesting 20,000 more National Guardsmen. But while the president is enjoying decent approval numbers, what remains of them, for the crackdown at the border, the crackdown on immigrants away from the border is costing him. Joining us now, New York Times Pentagon correspondent and NBC News political contributor Helene Cooper, and senior editor at The Atlantic, Hanna Rosin, is still with us. Helene, walk us through the reporting you have on what Donald Trump and what the Department of Homeland Security want now at the border.
Well, they're looking for 20,000. And first, hi, Katie. Thanks for having me. They're looking for 20,000 extra troops. A lot of this is being presented as an effort to crack down on Mexican drug cartels, who, according to Trump administration officials, are coming into this country and bringing with them fentanyl and bringing with them drugs. And they've been, talking about going after these people for quite some time. And that's why they want the extra troops and they want more of this military hardware. But a lot of this is also being deployed at civilians. You mentioned the troop number, 8,600 active duty soldiers who are already down there. You also have 2 naval destroyers, which are in the Gulf of Mexico and right off the Pacific. Off the coast of California that are hovering by. They're using U-2 spy planes. There's a lot of their drones. There's a lot of military and Pentagon hardware that has been deployed to the border as part of this effort to crack down on what one general down there described to us as the generational conflict for this generation. This is their mission. Sort of like, we had our grandparents' mission was World War II. This generation, he said, this military conflict for them was to crack down on immigrants at the border.
They see it as a military conflict, really? Individuals crossing the border? Do they see more nefarious stuff going on other than people who are looking for a better life? Helene?
Well, that's such a good question, Katie. It's a question of there's what they say, and this is what the Trump administration officials say, and then there's what the military says privately. And you have to make a distinction between these two things. The Pentagon historically has been very lukewarm about using active duty troops on the border. President Trump in his first term tried it. Jim Mattis did not. His defense secretary at the time did not like it. President Trump asked for a huge number of troops. Mattis responded at first by sending 2,100 National Guard troops and making sure that they stayed unarmed. When back as he was approaching his first midterm elections, President Trump then asked for 15,000 more. Mattis responded by sending 6,000. The Pentagon doesn't like the idea of this because the military trains to kill people. They prize readiness for foreign wars. They're trained to kill adversaries, and they define that usually as foreign adversaries. They do not like to be deployed inside the American border. When you think about the fact that your military is training to kill, do you really want them deployed on American streets and within the border? And that's something the Pentagon historically has not liked. They usually historically don't like the idea of being dragged into what they view as political partisan politics. But that's the historic Pentagon. Now we have the Trump Pentagon. And I can tell you that military officials are not crazy about this, but there are also senior defense officials who report to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and he is all about out-Trumping President Trump. So, you have to sort of figure out who you're talking to and kind of parse through what they're saying and what they feel comfortable saying on the record.
Yeah, and they certainly feel they have a degree of autonomy to move or an authority to move at the border because of the poll numbers and Donald Trump's campaign. The poll numbers for the border are still above water for Donald Trump, but the poll numbers for everything else are below water, and that includes immigration in general, partially because, Hanna, what we're seeing away from the border are really difficult and disturbing images like this one, which is, I believe it's a daughter who was being pinned down as her mother was detained. I mean, you got images of ICE hammering through windows, like this one, to take a husband away from a wife. We've heard about the children who were deported with their mother or left with their mother who were getting cancer treatments. There was one young girl. I mean, these are members of a community, and a lot of them and a lot of people around them will say, this is not what we thought we were voting for.
Exactly. Immigration enforcement turns out to be a delicate political act, and lots of presidents learn this anew, and Trump is learning it now. Americans want border enforcement. They don't necessarily want street enforcement, partly because they have experience with immigrants, there are immigrants in their community, and partly it's because they don't like to think of themselves as that kind of nation, as being part of that kind of enforcement, sort of shipping people off to prisons, violating their due process rights. So it's a very delicate act, and we're seeing it in the poll numbers already, where people think, oh, maybe you're overreaching here. This is not exactly what we asked for. Sometimes I like to think of it as control, like what Americans like to see is things being in control. So the border sort of fits that, but seeing people smashing in windows or people who are masked stopping young women on the street, that feels out of control, and that does not land quite as well.
Yeah, but I wonder, when Donald Trump was at the RNC, I was at the RNC, and everybody was holding up signed mass deportations now. Stephen Miller was talking about deporting 1 million immigrants, undocumented immigrants in a year. So I'm just, when people say they didn't think they were voting for that, where is the disconnect, Hannah?
I think mass deportation is an abstraction. People don't really, when you show somebody mass deportation, and like the images you just showed are very visceral. I mean, it's like men in masks knocking down young women. And so you can be abstractly for mass deportation. You can even sort of like raise your fist for mass deportation at a rally. But if you see a picture of what mass deportation looks like in its gory details, maybe you feel a little uncomfortable. You don't necessarily want to be a part of that.
Yeah, Hannah Rosen, Helene Cooper, ladies, thank you very much for joining us.